Okay, so, hey, my name is Willis Covington, and I want to talk about a little bit about what the pursuit of my paper and what it was about. The title of my paper is Mentorship in the Narrative Paradigm, and so because the narrative paradigm, the purpose of narration is the communication of values and justification for human action. I thought, so what? In essence, what does that mean for our relationships and for the way that we communicate? And so I set out to pretty much find and uncover the importance of the quality of our relationships, so that there is prime soil, a prime environment for our stories and narrations and values to be properly communicated and even rooted in each other's lives. And I call these relationships mentorships, where someone in our life has influenced us and helped us and imparted to us stories and experience and wisdom and values, so that we can grow and be successful. And so how I did that was I interviewed a few different people, but in my paper I used four, and what I asked was who was their mentor, what that looked like, how it happened, why it happened, and just tried to dissect the meaning of this, what I really wanted to do was paint a picture of the narrative paradigm in a way that's meaningful and purposeful. To start, I interviewed my friend Noel. He's the dad of a friend of mine, but the most important, influential person in his life was his own father. And the way that his dad did that was that he modeled certain values and characteristics to Noel, that Noel could emulate, and in order to be in order to live a good life. And in the way that his dad did that was model these characteristics, live this way, and even speak that to Noel's life. And interestingly, Noel never mentioned anything specifically that his dad said, but it was about the way that his dad lived that influenced him so much. And the stories and the values that his dad passed on to him were affirmed by a larger community, a church community that Noel was a part of. And so all these values that he was seeing in his dad and this wisdom, these experiences that his dad was imparting to him was being maintained in narrative probability and its fidelity and rationality, that this makes sense and this works, and this is good, and so it's not only just being imparted by his dad, but helped and strengthened by that community. And so in Noel's case, it was an implicit mentorship. Obviously, and Noel was sure to say that his dad didn't set out to be a good mentor, but in a way his dad was. It was implicit, the idea that Noel's dad was going to impart values and experiences and wisdom and stories, so that Noel could learn and grow and even share with other people. But that's not the whole picture as well, because some people don't have that. Some people, their mentorship, this relationship, is explicit. And what that means is there's a mutual understanding of what this relationship is. And that doesn't demean the quality of the relationship, but what it does mean is that, look, I know what I'm here for, and he knows what he's here for, and thus there's a mutual understanding that it's for the purpose of mentorship, and that each recognizes the need for that. And so it's important to remember here the principle that humans are always learning, and because humans are always learning, there's this need always to share, because there's always a need to learn. And so we can't just keep this for ourselves. It's the purpose, and this is deep in the narrative paradigm, that narratives share to communicate values and justify human action, but also to connect generations and strengthen communities and deepen communication. And so in my friend Jonathan's case, his mentor, his greatest influence, or one of the greatest influences in his life, was his church pastor, Mickey. And here the explicitness of this relationship is clear because Mickey did not begin mentoring Jonathan until Jonathan surrendered to ministry. And so when Jonathan felt that call in his life and surrendered to it, Mickey brought him in and said, I'm gonna impart to you lessons and wisdom to help you because I want to see you do well. And so it was understood that this is the purpose of this relationship. And besides, going along with this principle that humans are always learning, it would have been arrogant and foolish for Jonathan to say, I want to be a pastor of a church and go into it thinking he knew everything about it. Obviously, he doesn't. And so he needs that help. He needs that support, that encouragement, that somebody that's investing into his life with intention. And so there was this explicit mentorship happening, and this awesome relationship of communicating values and Mickey sharing stories and narratives with Jonathan in order to help Jonathan do well, because Jonathan is growing and learning, and soon one day to do the same for other people. And so we're beginning to see this cycle here that our communication within the narrative paradigm is not only connecting generations but continuing through generation from generation. And so to strengthen, I think, the importance of this environment of mentorship, meaning in my research I was beginning to see not just the importance of mentorship, but its vitality. Because in each of our lives there's someone who has influenced us, whether it's implicitly or explicitly. We do not go through this life without someone influencing us in some way, without some impact, without some communication of values. And so with this idea in mind, and if we begin to take this mentorship seriously, we begin to see the depth that our communication can take and the importance of our everyday relationships. Therefore, I just wanted to take this idea further and strengthen it and say, okay, there's this communication of values and this beautiful thing going on, and this prime soil for producing the fruits of human interaction and communication. But what exactly goes on at the base level? I just needed to just back this all up, and so I analyzed two more of my friends' interviews. One of them was Stephen, and he was particularly helpful in what he said because one of the people who's had the most influence in his life was in high school his youth pastor, and what was happening in Stephen's life was that he didn't have a good relationship with his dad. He described their relationship as argumentative and just bad. He said his dad wasn't living up to his expectations that a dad should have, and so it was just Stephen was going through this hard time, and drawing from Noel's relationship with his dad, there's so much that's just lost without having a fatherly or motherly or some kind of influence coming from your parents, and so Stephen was lacking that, and it was evident, and so this. His youth pastor Jamie didn't and couldn't do much to change his dad. Jamie couldn't go to his dad and say, "You need to be a better dad." Even if Stephen's dad would have taken that literally, it wouldn't have happened. And so what Jamie did do though was offer Stephen encouragement and different perspectives. And this is important because it wasn't that Jamie was just giving Stephen all this advice and saying all these wonderful things. What he was doing was just getting Stephen to see it differently. He was changing Stephen's outlook or his paradigm of the situation. And therefore, what took place was Stephen's perspective changing, which led to a change in his behavior. Instead of staying bitter or angry toward his dad, he actually stayed patient with him and prayed for him and loved his dad. And eventually his dad changed. And now, as a result, and and among many other factors, Stephen now has a solid, good relationship with his dad. And if Jamie hadn't have done that in Stephen's life, Stephen would probably still be bitter and angry. And so it's awesome to see not only the type of communication that can come from a mentorship, but the other fruits, more relationships, more mentorships. And so one mentorship led to another, and it's just a really cool thing to see. And also, I analyzed my interview with a friend of mine named Julie, and in Julie's life, it was her mom, and through all the difficult times that high school brings and your teenage years, her mom helped her through so much and gave her so much encouragement and impacted her life in this same way. And so it all comes together that this idea of mentorship is not just an option. It's not just something that happens that's good. It's in my eyes and through my research, I see it as vital. If we're to succeed as human beings, as homo neurons, that it is our nature to share stories and communicate values and to interact with one another, what better environment than this idea of mentorship, whether it's implicit, explicit, between a father and a son, a mother and a daughter, a youth pastor and a teenager, or a boss, or an older friend, or two friends. It's a thing that's not necessarily limited by age or experience, and so I've just laid in my research and my analyzations just a small stone in the grand scheme of things, because this is big. Human interaction is big, and mentorship, just painting an idea of it has been an exciting thing. But the questions that remain are, okay, so what now? We had this idea that mentorship and building these quality relationships is vital. But what do those relationships look like? How do they start? Who is it with? And I could give you a good idea, but I think further research is important to build on this idea and to kind of give a structure of what it looks like, and to pinpoint the importances and lay it out flat for people to see and communicate that to the world, because that's what this is. This is a learning and growing and sharing experience that all humans do. It's in our nature as homo neurons. And so that's a little bit of my research, a little bit of my paper. I hit up on some meta-narration a little bit. In times of crisis, just kind of took a different twist on how we change our perspective in the middle of how mentors can change our perspective in the middle of crisis, and a few other things. But overall, I was glad to see what I found. I wasn't sure what I would, the depth that I would dig into, but now I truly see that mentorship has so much more than just benefits. It's a whole new journey and a whole new beautiful thing that can strengthen communities, friendships, relationships, the quality of our communication, connecting generations, older to younger, younger to older, and I hope that because of this, we will not only pursue someone who can help us in time of need, but that we can pursue someone so that we can help them. So thank you, and I hope you have a good day.